Today's case is a very sensitive one, and that's for obvious reasons, but viewer discretion advised. This case covers the murder of a minor, and the family of Danielle Jones are still trying to find the body of their beloved daughter. Today's case brings us back to the UK. It brings us to a town in Essex, and the town is called East Tilbury. Essex is a county in southeast England, and it is known for having the longest pier in the world. It's so big, it has its own train track. Essex is also the birthplace of some familiar faces, one of which is Rupert Grint. He played Ron Weasley in the beloved Harry Potter. Our story begins with a 15-year-old girl named Danielle Jones. She lived in a house with her parents Tony and Linda and her two younger brothers. She was just your typical 15-year-old girl. She loved listening and dancing to music. She had a big passion for animals and she adored her two rabbits. She was described as a passionate happy girl. And on the 18th of June 2001, it was like any other day for Danielle. At around 8 AM, she was making her way to the bus stop to go to school, a journey she'd made countless times before. However, this time, she never made it on the bus, and she never made it to school either. She was immediately reported missing. Straight away into the case, Danielle's uncle was immediately ruled a suspect. Danielle grew very close to her uncle. His name is Stuart Campbell. His wife is Tony's sister, and this made him Danielle's uncle by marriage. Tony never liked Stuart. He got along with him, but he always knew there was something there. There was something very strange about him, a little bit weird. As the years went on and Danielle got older, he would take a particular interest in her. He would usually meet her off the school bus, sometimes making her uncomfortable in front of her friends. He would come to the house 4 or 5 times a week, and this is to the point Linda and Tony were completely fed up with him always being around. Danielle and her family, they noticed the extra attention, and Danielle tried to pull back a little from Stuart, but he resisted. The family found him showing extra attention to Danielle odd but harmless. He was her uncle after all, but they could have never imagined his true thoughts. Let's fast forward to the day Danielle went missing. Danielle's little brother watched her leave the house that morning, from the top window. She took her normal route. When the call came in from the school saying Danielle never showed up, Danielle's mother Linda was shocked. She knew her daughter wasn't a rule breaker, and she would have never ditched school on her own accord anyway. Her friends and family continued to text and call her, but Danielle never answered, and day turned into night. As friends and family went out into the street looking for Danielle, Linda would stay home in case Danielle came home that night, but she never came home. The support from the public in the days that followed was described as outstanding, and Danielle's mother Linda would go on to give the public praise in searching for her daughter.
4 weeks today since Danielle went missing. Tasking today for teams 2 and 3 will be a footpath that runs from Butts Lane to a railway bridge at Linford in Essex. Okay. The divers will be continuing today at the lake nearest to the East Tilbury village. There's tire tracks footmarks on one area of that lake where they'll be paying particular attention.
Linda and Tony raised their concerns to the investigators working the case about the relationship Danielle had with Stuart. Witnesses came forward saying they seen a blue van in the area around the time Danielle disappeared. It was also said Danielle was seen getting into an altercation with someone in a blue van. Guess who had a blue van? Stuart Campbell. Once this information came into light, it was confirmed Danielle was most likely abducted. As the investigation into Stuart Campbell began to escalate, they would dig into his life, and what they found, it was horrifying. He once forcibly detained a 14-year-old girl in his house and took indecent images of her. He entered a plea of guilty for this offence. He served a year on remand and was then released at the end of this trial. Linda and Tony knew he had a run-in with the law, but they were led to believe that the case was bogus and he had been acquitted, which this was obviously not the case. Further investigations by the police had found 30 victims over a 20-year period. He would usually pose as a photographer and hand out his business cards with his details on them. He would lure the unsuspecting victims back to his house and take indecent images of them. With all of this information, Stuart was placed under surveillance. And while he was under surveillance, he spent his time taking photographs with silver cars. And these cars, they would match the description of his own personal car. He was likely trying to build an alibi for himself. The police held back on arresting him right away, as if Danielle was still alive, hopefully Stuart would lead them right to her. But 5 days after she was last seen, police made the decision to arrest Stuart Campbell.
Can you say your name, please?
Stuart Campbell.
We have reasonable grounds to believe, Stuart, you know where she is, don't you?
No.
Where is she?
The lady said to me not to say nothing, right?
Right. Can your conscience allow you to do that? You know where she is. What's her name?
Danielle.
Danielle. You're not going to talk to her, Stuart?
No, it's say.
They were worried about your relationship with Danielle. Tell me what it was about her, Stuart. Why you wanted to be with her.
No comment. You don't understand the actual structure of the family in this house.
Explain it
With
to
no
me.
disrespect to Tone and Lynn, they sort of at their wits' end with Danielle. So much so that she can't stand being in the same room as her dad. It's just easier to try and be a middle broker between them. So you can try and get mum and dad to talk to Danielle, Danielle to give a bit there, them to give a little bit there, just to keep peace, and then the boys aren't all upset all the time.
Stuart's alibi was that he was in a shop in Rayleigh, but investigators found it strange as he never bought anything. He said he then returned home and he went to a neighbour's house to do some decking. Rayleigh was about a 25-minute drive from Danielle's house. With this, the police couldn't hold him for questioning any longer and had to release him. They needed solid evidence. Upon searching the house of Danielle, they found a pencil case, and inside the pencil case there were 2 notes. The first one read, "Hi Princess, hope you're having a lovely holiday. Text me when you get back. Love, Stuart, kiss." The second one read, "Hi Princess, in case you missed my last note, I just thought I'd pop in another to let you know I do miss your smile. Kiss kiss." In the weeks before Danielle had went missing, she went on holiday with her family. While they were away, Stuart had gone into Danielle's bedroom and he left the notes. Danielle didn't tell her mother about this, but she confided in a friend who was incredibly concerned, and rightfully so. Stuart had fitted a new back door to their house, and police believed this is how he had a key to enter the house, as there was no signs of forced entry. A search was carried out in Stuart's home. They found a load of photography equipment along with indecent images that he had taken of girls. They also found he had indecent images of children he had downloaded off the internet. They found a black bag. Inside was lingerie and handcuffs, and a pair of plain white stockings, and on the stockings was a small amount of blood. They were then sent away to be tested. When the results came back, the socks contained a mixture of Stuart's and Danielle's DNA. The public and family continued to search for Danielle, and they extended their search to deep waters and abandoned buildings. This would set heartbreak into the family. On June 28, 2001, Stuart Campbell was very keen to show officers a text message he had received. It was from his niece's phone. It read, "Hi Stu, what you up to? I'm in so much trouble." Police discovered on the day Danielle disappeared they found a text message, and it was sent from her phone to Stuart's phone. And it read, "Hi Stu, thanks for being so nice. You're the best uncle ever. Tell Mum I'm sorry. Love you loads, Dan. Kiss, kiss, kiss." It appeared by these text messages Danielle was still alive. But with Stuart's past and his relationship with Danielle, this was clearly a ruse. It was very likely he sent those texts from her phone in an effort to lead investigators away from him. As the investigation carried on, it was revealed that Danielle's phone and Stuart's phone, they were together near his home 30 hours after she went missing. Analysis also showed Danielle's phone and his phone had been at the same phone mast when the text message was sent in. 17th of August 2001. Stuart Campbell was arrested for the indecent images found at his property during the searches. And in the background, the investigators tried to gather more evidence for the kidnapped murder of Danielle Jones.
Desperate to get her back. We're devastated.
Devastated with it.
Can't have missed this in the news. It's had huge publicity, and perhaps the chance of finding new witnesses tonight might be slim.
Well, I'm convinced that Danielle has been abducted. I know that she was last seen walking towards Coronation Avenue, but after that I don't know where she went to. and we really need to speak to anybody who saw her after she left the road close to her where she lives. Anyone who may have been there, they may think that we already have the information and we don't need to speak to them again. We do. Anybody who can tell us anything about Danielle's movements after she left home should contact us urgently.
And what about the possible sighting of Danielle arguing with a man? You know about that, but you want more witnesses on that, if possible.
I want witnesses to anything that happened to Danielle. It's possible that it was her involved in that argument. It may have been somebody else, and if it was, let's speak to them. Let's rule them out so we can be clear what we're now looking for. But if that was Danielle and anybody else saw an argument or a conversation between two people, speak to us. Tell us what you saw. No matter how insignificant it is, it can contribute to our investigation. It may be the absolute key to what we're looking for.
Given that you believe she was abducted, is there anything that may have been going on in her life before this that might shed any light?
I certainly think it's a possibility. There may be friends who have been confided in. There may be somebody who knows something that she's talked about at school or in the village. Contact us and tell us that. There may be good reasons why you haven't spoken to us before. They may be frightened with this length of time having passed that they'll be criticised if they come forward now. We must speak to them. Tell us now whatever you can to help, and let us be the judge of how useful it is.
Stuart kept a diary. Police would refer to it as the Danielle diary. He would record every interaction with Danielle. It was obvious he was obsessed with Danielle, and with all the evidence gathered, the Crown Prosecution Service charged Stuart with the kidnap and murder of Danielle. While waiting for the trial to take place, Tony and Linda, they were falling apart. Tony had to return to his job while Linda left hers. Linda struggled with the most simple tasks, like ironing and cleaning. The void left behind by Danielle's disappearance was evident. I for one can't imagine what the family were going through. Losing their daughter in such horrific circumstances, it must affect you long term mentally. 1 minute they're there, and the next they're not. Also, while awaiting for the trial, the search for Danielle continued. They tried finding evidence against Stuart to complete the puzzle, while also trying to give the family the peace of mind they deserved.
If I could start with you, tell me about the last time you saw Danielle.
Well, it was the morning that she left for school. Just a very normal morning. Got up, got dressed, said goodbye, see you later. And that, it was just so normal.
I am determined to find Danielle's body. The searches will stop at the end of this month. They will, however, be resumed whenever we received any intelligence that justifies a further search. Now, the date for the searches ceasing actually coincides with the start of the trial. And whilst it was always my intention to continue searching up to the start of the trial, actually we have now come to the end of the intelligence packages which have been repaired, looking at likely deposition sites. But I do stress, and I've reassured Tony and Linda of this, that whenever we get any intelligence which may identify another possible site, we will resume our search.
In October 2001, the trial began. On Tuesday the 19th of December 2002, after an 11-week trial, the jury came to their verdict. Stuart Campbell was found guilty of the abduction and murder of Danielle Jones. He was sentenced to life in prison with a minimum of 20 years to be served, before being considered for parole. And that was it. Stuart had made appeals, but they were all denied, rightfully so. Over the years, police continued to interview Stuart to try to find out where Danielle was and where he had buried Danielle, but he always refused to cooperate. In 2017, there was a search made on a garage block in Turek after receiving new information.
Her uncle was jailed, but has always withheld the details of her burial place. So could this site provide the breakthrough? Focusing on the area hidden by the white tent, these garages are around 6 miles from where Danielle was last seen. Her mother and father came to meet police here earlier, a sign of the significance of this new line of inquiry. They spent 15 minutes at the spot, which police say they never searched a decade and a half ago, despite receiving information at the time.
The information we received was there was some suspicious activity in that area where a male was seen in the garage block shortly after Danielle's disappearance. This is a credible line of inquiry, and we will conduct a thorough and professional search to do all that we can to make sure that we return Danielle's body to her family.
Police have erected fences here at the site, which is around half a mile away from where Campbell lived. The team is expected to be here for the next week, and their excavation work is due to start imminently. For those who were living in the area back then, this distressing case has cast a long shadow.
It's always in the back of your mind, especially because she was such a young girl at the time, and she was a local girl, and yeah, like things like that you don't forget.
Danielle's parents say they hope this search will bring answers about what happened 16 years ago.
Unfortunately, it was later announced the body of Danielle was not found at the search site.
20 years ago today, on Monday the 18th of June 2001, 15-year-old schoolgirl Danielle Sarah Jones left her home in East Tilbury to go to school. Little did anyone on that day know that not only would she never be seen again, but that her disappearance and murder would touch the lives of so many of us here at Essex Police from that moment and for the ensuing 20 years. From her disappearance to the eventual realisation that she had been murdered, to the conviction of her uncle, right through to now, Danielle's murder has affected hundreds of us here at Essex Police. Many of you who have come to know the family through this case still feel their pain as they continue to live without having been able to say a final goodbye to their lovely daughter. They will never give up hope of finding Danielle and giving her the burial that she deserves. And we will always remain committed to achieving this for them. Over the years, we have continued in our commitment to act on every piece of information in the hope that one day we will be able to return Danielle to Mum and Dad and the rest of her family so that she can finally be laid to rest. Today we gather to remember the life of Danielle, that vibrant young girl, to remember the pain and loss of her mum, dad and siblings, to pause and consider all the things that Danielle never got to know and do because her life was so tragically cut short. But most of all, in remembering Danielle, we remember our pledge to her parents and the rest of her family that we will always act on any information we receive that may bring us closer to bringing her home.
Through the investigation and search for Danielle, over 900 officers and support staff worked alongside each other, while over 1,500 locations were searched. Danielle's family hope one day they can finally bring her home and lay her to rest. And until then, her murder case remains open. Thanks for watching. If you have any other cases you would like me to cover, you can send me an email directly, or else you can put a suggestion in the comments.